Hey everybody, this is Darwin Reina, the Festival Director Hospitalet, Barcelona International Film Festival. Today we have a great filmmaker. This lady, she made this beautiful work, The State of Texas versus Melissa. And this documentary, it's been all over the place. She's been winning a lot of stuff. She's been in the greatest festivals in the world. And we have her today with us. Thank you so much, Sabrina. Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
It's an honor to have your documentary in our festival. Is great. You know, it makes us feel very good, especially this case. Let's start, Sabrina. Tell me, where do you get the idea to do this? Where is this coming from? Tell me that process to start with.
It came from I was assigned to do a documentary about women on death row for a French TV channel. For a network. I was meant to follow 4 different women. And so I looked for people to interview. Who am I, who am I going to do the film about? And so I crossed paths with the case of, with Melissa Lucio. At the beginning, there was very little that had been written about her, if not at all. No media was, had never really been interested in her case. So I started investigating. I went down there. I went in South Texas. I met her family, and I just came across this just unbelievable case. An egregious miscarriage of justice. I mean, it was just so incredible, everything that they were telling me. First of all, they told me I was the first person in 13 years to come and ask them questions about Melissa. That, no lawyers had ever reached out to them. Melissa's own lawyers, had never even, asked any questions to her family. And then right away they told me it was an accident, that the little girl fell down the stairs. They asked me if I wanted to see the stairs. I said yes. And then, they're giving me all these bribes of information like, oh, and her court-appointed attorney, he went to work for the DA right after the trial. Oh, and the DA, he's in prison right now for bribery and extortion. And it went on and on and on. Wow. It was just, and I was like, what? And then the next day I met Melissa, and same thing here. She had been at that point 11 years on death row, and she had never had any media requests whatsoever. So I was the very first, reporter, filmmaker to interview her ever. And right away, I got that feeling, when you're a documentary filmmaker, your instincts, play a huge part in what you do, right? And you get a feeling, of course, then, you need to investigate and all that. I got this just huge feeling inside of me that, there's no way this woman did that way, and so I kept repeating, I kept asking her, who's your lawyer? And she gave me the name of her lawyer, and then I got a hold of that woman, and she told me, thank you for your interest. We have been waiting for years for media interest. But unfortunately, I think it's going to be too late. I fear she's going to have an execution date within 9 months. Wow. So I was like, what? It was just, so big. So, I finished that film I was assigned to do very urgently. I had 2 films, that I was doing for French TV at that time. And I was just really in a hurry to finish them, because I knew right then, that day when I met Melissa on death row, this is going to be my next film. I'm actually leaving death row. I'm telling my DP, I turned to my DP and I said, this is going to be the 3 next years of my life. You know, I'm going to create a production company. I'm going to produce this film. I'm going to do, I mean, she did not do this. And this is how it started. And also it started with the attorney, her state habeas attorney, giving me all the files. So she, you know, gave me an incredible amount of documents, like 3,000-4,000 pages of Child Protective Services files, her entire case at trial, everything, you know, and for the 2-3 next month, I just basically read everything I could put my hand on. And, you know, just looking for something, you know, just like a sign out there that, you know, Melissa had been violent before, or that, you know, she was abusive, and I couldn't find anything. And I think it's important to say that throughout the entire filming, because I was only allowed to interview Melissa 1 hour every 3 months.
Wow.
So
tough.
I went back there 4 or 5 times, I think. And every single time, you know, I you know, focused on a different aspect of Melissa's life, her immediate family, her children who had all been, you know, placed into foster care, like going to, you know, look for them, her the judicial, you know, aspect of it all, you know, the Brownsville courthouse and the people involved in the case who, of course, did not want to speak to me at all. So that took a long time. And during that entire process, I was always looking, you know, I mean, it's not like I put, you know, that's not the way I work. It's not like I put something in my head saying, oh, she's innocent, that's it. No, I was always looking. Always looking, you know. It's like, you know, it didn't matter really in a way for the film. If Melissa had been guilty, it was still a story to tell, right? As a filmmaker, you know, that wasn't the point. It's just, it became the point, you know. The reason I decided to do a film about Melissa was she checked all the boxes, you know, of the ideal culprit, you know, the person you want to see ending up in prison. It's like death row, it was designed for people like Melissa, you know. She's poor, she's Hispanic, she has way too many children, she had a history of drug abuse, she lives, you know, in dumps, she's been abused her entire childhood, sexually abused. I mean, all these little things are things that when you meet people who are on death row, other indigents, other people like her, they all have the same thing. The abuse, the sexual abuse, you know, when they were children is always there. The poverty, the fact that you're brown or black, you know, that comes, that's huge in the picture. And, you know, every single one of them have, you know, a court-appointed attorney, and very often a DA who's in the middle of re-election. So that's the reason why, you know, I wanted to tell the story of Melissa's story, because, you know, from everything that she represents, really.
Right.
You know,
Wow.
So yeah, but I was always looking, and I can say that, you know, after 3 years of filming, looking, you know, just reading everything. I think I've interviewed, I mean, there's so many people I interviewed, of course, that are not in the film. I can say, you know, I say to people, prove it to me. You know, there's nothing in there. There's nothing. And she just did not have any investigation. I mean, I think and that's the sad part of it, investigated more than, you know, anybody. And, you know, I'm a filmmaker, you know, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I was about to tell you, become a detective. You become a detective and somehow, you know,
it's unbelievable. And this, I became, you know, not only that, but, you know, I was taking a fix. you know, from people who had never been, you know, interviewed by anybody by her law team, you know. So I'm like, you know, could you write that on a piece of paper that had nothing to do with the film, just to, you know, give it. And it's scary, you know. And you know, I was telling you prior, you know, before we started this interview, that, you know, now there are a lot of people reaching out to me for help for different cases, and you're just wondering, you know, how many cases are out there. You know, it seems that, you know, the justice system, you know, in America is so, I mean, so screwed up in so many ways,
broken,
and
right?
there needs to be major reform. And so now, you know, I mean, there's all these cases, and again, you know, most of them happen to be Black or brown, and always poor. So yeah.
Wow, Sabrina, I mean, it's amazing what you say, you know. Let's get, because your documentary is so complex, it's so good. How do you pull off this pre-production? I think it was a very heavy task, right, for you to get all those interviews. How do you manage to do all this stuff? Tell us, for the other filmmakers to realize how a big documentary like the one you have is able to do in the pre-production. How was a little bit? Tell us a little bit the process of your pre-production of your documentary, please.
So one word: tenacity, tenacity, tenacity. Like, never let go. You know,
right?
I mean, there are some people, and of course, you know, you could do a film about the film, right? About the filming process, or about the, you know, investigation, everything. It was, you know, some people, in order to have their interview, they hang up on me maybe 6 or 7 times. Wow. Like, for example, there's a prosecutor in the film. I mean, he hanged up on me so many times, and every 2-3 months I would call again, and I'd be, hi, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm doing this film about Melissa Lucio. And at the end, he said to me, you know what, come to the court tomorrow, 8 a.m. And, you know, it's just like, you know, let's get this over with, you know, just leave me alone. Obviously, her court-appointed attorney, after 1.5 years of leaving messages and emails, he had never, you know, returned any phone calls, nothing, didn't return any emails. And because I was there, you know, it's kind of like I was sleeping at the courthouse, you know, I was there every day, I bumped into him. So that's how I met him. But, you know, I want to say, how I prepared it was very particular. When you have someone like that, a case like that, it could be death row, but it could be any other, you know, really, you know, traumatizing case. It's like an atomic bomb, if you will, in family, right? So you don't know how people are going to react, and you don't want people to start talking to other people and influence them. So I was very particular in the way that I did, you know, I prepared the filming. Every single time I you know, gave myself a task of a different aspect of Melissa's life, you know, and I left the political part at the very end. Because I thought, if I start, you know, interviewing these people first, they're going to put pressure on the family, then the family's not going to speak to me, right? Right. Everything like this, it was kind of like a deck of cards, or like a domino game, you know, where I was like, okay, let's, you know, do them now, and let's interview this person now. Let's do all these things. So it was an incredible amount of research. An incredible amount also of how do you tell this story? There's so many ways to tell a story, right?
You're right.
Yeah, and how do you, as a director, you know, how do I want to tell the story, and how do I want to have it filmed? And I spent a lot of time, my DA, you know, just thinking about, you know, every single scene, and, you know, how we're going to tell the story of that person, how we're going to, you know, show, because there's no voiceover in the film, show the distance, show the poverty, show all these things, show the pain, show the feelings that I had down there. South Texas is very raw, it's very hot, and can be kind of hostile in a way, and poverty is huge. I wanted to show that, and so we discussed it a lot, like I didn't want to do flashbacks, or I didn't want to have actors, I don't really like that, when you have basically actors doing, redoing a film. In a documentary, I always feel it, it's a little, odd. So I would use other people, for example, to show Melissa how Melissa was with her children and what it means to have so many children. I used her oldest daughter, Danielle, in the film, who has 9 children. And so I was filming her, walking, down the streets, and when you see the image of Daniela walking with her children, kind of like mommy duck with all her little ducklings, all of a sudden you get, you understand, what it, you understand how, what Melissa, was like with her children. And same thing, when I filmed Daniela going to the stairs where the accident happened, and, her children are there, playing, and she has one of her daughters all of a sudden that goes in, on the stairs, and, you realize, oh, wow, an accident can happen so easily with children, especially when you have so many. So, it was like all these things, there was a lot of thinking, in the process. It's a lot of thinking. It's out.
Wow. Sabrina, tell me something about the production. When you do the interviews with Melissa, with the families, do you prepare questions and also you improvise at the same time? You a question comes to your mind, you say, oh no, I'm gonna say this question now to them. How's that process on the time when you're getting all the information from them in front of the camera? Always everything well prepared for you. How was that?
So in terms of the questions, I prepare them. It's like, it's everybody has their own way. Some people, prefer having, a deck of paper and, with the questions. I prefer not having anything. I like to connect with a person and kind of look in their eyes, and there's always a question popping up, and just basically asking them, what I feel. Of course, that comes with an extraordinary amount of preparation prior, because I've read so many things, and I'm already thinking, all the things that I want to ask them. I think that's very rare, the way that I do that. I have a big memory, so that also, helps. I have a big memory, so I'm always like, I always feel like kind of frustrated when I have to read, the interview, my questions. I don't like it too much, but I did it with Melissa the very first time, because I didn't know if I was going to be allowed to interview her a second time. And like I told you, I was only allowed 1 hour every 3 months. So it was, you're doing a film about someone on death row, you need her. You need her. So I had, prepared all these questions for that very first interview. And it was not a happy feeling, just because, I was rushing, the time was, ticking, and I was just like, oh my God, like, just, okay, what about this? What about that? So it was like, I had everything though. My editor told me after, he said, I want to tell you, had you had only that one interview, you still had everything. You had everything covered. Okay. But after since I knew I could interview her again, every single time I would interview her, it would be about something else. And what I would do also in terms of preparation is I would write. We write to each other a lot, Melissa and I.
Oh.
And we wrote. That's our only way to communicate. She is not allowed to receive phone calls, right? She's on death row. So so basically, I would write her letters telling her, this time coming, I would like to talk about your childhood. And of course I knew everything she was going to tell me because she had explained all that. But, I would like you to explain your childhood. I would like to explain, the poverty. I would like you to explain the accident. And then at the very last time I saw her, I asked her, I said, I would like you to think about all the things you're missing about the outside world, And that's what she says at the very end of the film. Yeah. What I miss about the outside world. I miss this and I miss that. And I said, think about it. What do you miss the most? If you could, and so think about it. And so when I came to interview her and I asked her the question, what do you think about what do you miss the most about the outside world? And she just, came on. I mean, it was not even edited. She says at the end of the film, it was like, what I miss about the outside world, the birds and the grass and the smell of fresh cut grass and making food for my children. And it's just all these things that came, So there was a lot of preparation prior, me writing to her. And then, all of a sudden, when I interview her, it's already in my head, basically. It was very prepared.
Wow. Beautiful. I mean, your documentary, well, I mean, you having a lot of success with your documentary, Sabrina. It seems like it's well prepared. There's no doubt about it. Let's go to the post-production very quick. Sabrina, how much footage do you gather? All those, and how do you manage to put this into 1 hour and a half? Or is what you? How is that process working with the editor? Yeah, tell us a little bit, please.
Well, I think every filmmaker will tell you that the hardest part is the editing.
Yeah.
And one thing that I want to say going into the editing is the time. But it's also the time for the filming. The biggest luxury that you have as a documentary filmmaker is time. Right. I mean, you can have a lot of money, but no, you need the time to think about what you're going to do. If you don't have to rush, if you are just spending one day thinking, okay, I'm going to interview this person, everything, you're going to think about everything. If you're like, only have 20 days to direct, film, a documentary, and then you only have 5 weeks to edit a documentary, then of course, you're cut up with time. The thing that I had, because I decided to produce, my own film, and I found the money, and I was not attached to any network, so I was completely free, and that was a big luxury. It was scary. A lot of people would find that very scary, and yes, it was. But I spent, as a result, 6 months into editing the film. 6 months. So that's a long time for a documentary. It's not for fiction, for a narrative, but it is for a documentary. And the way I did it was with my editor is, I would go character per character, I mean, first, of course, Melissa, it's just we put bins, her childhood, her lawyer, the DA, just every, we separated every chapters of her life. And then, every single character, and then we had a huge board in the editing room where basically we're like trying to tell the story with what we have. Right. I think the biggest mistake is try to tell the story with what you don't have. I tell the story with what I have. Right. You know what I mean about that, like telling the story what you don't have. It's like you want to tell something, but you don't have it. No. Maybe you had an idea, but it's not in the film. Forget about it. Just stick to what you have and tell the story with what you have. Right. What is the best way to, tell this story? how do I want to start the story? How do I want to finish it? I like to have something like kind of like something that makes sense between the beginning and the end.
Mhm.
And if you see in the film, it starts and it ends the same way.
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah.
know? Yeah. So that was something that, you know, I had in mind. I was like, you know, it's Melissa who starts by telling her story, and it's Melissa at the end who starts by, you know, who ends her story and says what she wants. So, you
Mhm.
know, we're still, you know, that was something. Okay, who tells the story? Is it Melissa who tells her story? Is it, you know, people who are telling her story? You know, so you need to kind of define the point of view. Same thing in the film. You know, some people have said to me, oh, well, you know, you have a forensic expert at the very beginning of the film, and then you have the other forensic expert at the very end of the film. And I mean, that's done on purpose. You know, I mean, if you
Mhm.
put them one after the other, like one answers the other, then what? You know, and what are you going to talk about? You know,
Mhm.
I wanted to basically in the first 30 minutes put everything that has put Melissa on death row, you know, all the factors, you know, the interview where she's seen, you know, hurting her, you know, with a doll, where she's
Mhm.
asked to,
Yeah.
you know, basically hit the doll. The forensic expert saying it's the worst case of child abuse, the poverty, the drug addiction, the, you know, just put everything at the beginning. This is what the jury saw, because this is what the jury saw.
Mhm.
The jury, they never had the other side of the picture.
Right.
So the first 30 minutes, it's like, this is what the jury saw. This is what got her convicted. Now you understand why she's there. Now, okay, let me tell you the rest of the story. Let me explain what happened, you know, all the things that should have, you know, come into the picture, all the things that should have been heard at trial that weren't, you know, and this is, you know, where, you know, I went. Also specifically in that type of film, you have to decide, okay, what do I want to, what type of film is it? You know, some people think they're going to watch, you know, a crime story, you know, like one of
Right.
them, one of those crime stories. It's not.
Uh-huh.
It's
No, no.
more a psychological narrative, well, you know,
Oh yeah.
about a woman on death row.
Oh yeah.
There's a portrait of
Mm.
a woman on death row, more than, you know, just, you know, a crime story. Yes,
Yeah.
it's, you understand what I mean. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's
you're
like,
right. You're
and
totally right in what
so
you're saying. Yeah, go ahead,
yeah,
go ahead.
so this is more, and this is why it was designed to be for cinema. You know, I mean, the film's coming
Mhm.
out in France in September, hopefully, when this COVID nightmare, you know, stops. And this is why, you know, it was directed and made, you know, for to be shown on the big screen. You know, this is not, you know, a film where you rushed and where, you know, you want the answer TV
Uh-huh.
style. This
No,
is
no, no.
not, absolutely not the film I wanted to make. And so that was a fight, because even some partners that I had at the beginning on the film, I had to fight against them, and eventually I had to buy them back because they were opposed to that film.
Wow.
Actually, one of them, and he's never even seen him, you know, again, but said to me, "The film as it is will never be shown anywhere."
He was wrong.
Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, I like to speak to other filmmakers out there. You know, you have to fight against. It's not only the story. It's not only, you know what, how you want to direct a film. It's also, you know, fighting against the people who want to have you make the film differently.
Mm-hmm.
And you know,
Totally.
everything was telling me, no, this is the way to tell this story. You
Mm-hmm.
need to get into Melissa's psyche, to get into her life, to get into, you know, Arlington, Texas, and these people are, and culture, you know, the Latino culture,
Mm-hmm.
and to understand what happened to her and to get touched by the story. So that was, that was the direction that I took. And it was a scary direction at the beginning because a lot, like I told you, I mean, I had some partners who thought, this is going to be a disaster.
They were wrong. Yeah.
And they were wrong. We are happy about that.
Yeah, it's correct. Wow. It's Sabrina, I love this. So I love what you just say because, it makes me feel that we as a filmmakers, we have to believe totally in our projects, the vision we have and go with it. So basically what you're telling me, I guess, when you decide the final master of your film, of the documentary we see right now, it comes from you, right? It's totally your decision, basically. I guess you've been having a few opinions and feedback, but it's coming from you, right? From what you were feeling of.
Completely. Just everything.
Wow.
Just everything. Wow. Even the poster, I woke up one morning and I was just like thinking, oh, her face needs to be cut in half because she's already half gone. And I want to have her entire life in the background because the reason why she's where she's at is because of every little, aspects in her life, just everything, everything. I mean, of course you work with other people, but it was always like, no, I feel we should do this, or I feel we should do that. Or, I was like, at the end, it was just everything. And I mean, it's really, you need to believe it, like, and be completely certain that, this is what you need to do. And of course, advice is good and it's great, right? I mean, but, if you have someone who basically does not understand at all what you want to do or what you want to say, then, clearly, this is not an advice to
correct
to follow. And, I'm going to say something, it's a little touchy what I'm going to say, but, a lot of people, unfortunately, at the networks or, who also work at production companies and all that, they're not directors and they're not writers. And, a lot are executives and, they think there's one way to do a film and not another, like a recipe. Oh, yeah, well, that can't happen because, like that kind of thing. Like if there was a recipe for, good filmmaking, for making a good film, we would know. Okay. I mean, I don't think there's such a thing. And when you see the kind of films that, won Oscars or, get like the incredible amount of success, it's unbelievable. A film like Nomadland, or a film like Parasites. Who would have thought, right? I mean, these are not the kind of things where, on paper you'd be like, oh wow, that's going to be a blockbuster, and we're gonna make so much money. There's no recipe. What there is what an artist really wants to say, at core. Again, this film comes at a point in my life where I've directed 45 documentaries in the last 15 years, and most of them in the US, because I'm part part French, part American, so I understand American culture very well, being American myself, and for the last 15 years I've been everywhere in the US, and I explored the poverty and indigents, all these people that are voiceless, and there's and I did a lot of I did films about a lot of films about women abused, I mean, all kinds of things like that, So I guess I nourished myself a lot.
Right.
And this film comes at this point in my life where there was just so many things in the story that, are important to me and that I wanted to tell. And, that was my vision. And then, of course, I worked with like the most amazing, music composer who just understood, and we were going back and forth, and I would be like, this, he would just, give me, like, what he had just composed, and I would be like, yes or no. And very often he would even compose on the image, on the sequence. And that was pretty amazing. And also my DP. I mean, the images are quite phenomenal. How we decided to, the format of the film, the format to decide to do it like kind of like in a movie, because Melissa's story could be a movie tomorrow. It has all the ingredients. Really, a Hollywood, movie with all like,
You put it in the spotlight now, definitely. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Sabrina.
And I think a lot of people know that, being documentary filmmakers, is that, the reality always beats fiction. It always beats fiction. Always like incredible compared to, narratives.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I'm impressed of what you're saying. Sabrina, 2 more questions. Were you expecting all this success when you start this project that you're having it right now?
No,
right?
I was, I don't know, yes and no in a way. I mean, no,
you were feeling
I wasn't
inside.
expecting.
There was any spark of feeling that, yes, it's gonna be huge like it is now? What do you think?
When the film was selected at Tribeca, and that, I knew I had, some of the highest grades from the jury, I was like, okay, and then of course, immediately after Tribeca, then, I had distributors reaching out to me, and like all these different, film festivals. So, okay. But, I think we've had 22 festival selections, and we won 7 awards. It was, it was on the Oscar race. I mean, very far, we were in the hundreds, but, it was still there. And now the film is on Hulu, and it's going to be, it's coming out, theatrically released in September in France. So it's just all these things happening, and I'm just so happy that, first of all, I mean, I'm happy that the COVID has not enabled me, enabled me completely to go to any of these film festivals, and everything is online. But I'm really looking forward to actually going to Tribeca this year in June, and hopefully coming to your festival in September, in Barcelona, and meet the people. I mean, that would be just really amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely. That was my last question. Are you coming to Barcelona? But you just
absolutely coming.
Yes, we love your documentary. We have to see it with the people. Hey, this documentary is available in Hulu right now. In our festival, it's gonna be for 1 day, for a couple of hours, and then we have Melissa there. We're gonna have a great time, because this story is very deep. Sabrina, you did great telling the story of Melissa.
Thank you.
Definitely. Congratulations for your success, and I wish you more, and I know it's coming more, that's for sure. Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina.
And see you in September.
Yes.
Have a good day.
Take care.
You too. Bye.